back in the 2010s, if you were to ask who football's most hated players were, names like Pepe, Luis Suarez, Sergio Ramos, Neymar, and of course Cristiano Ronaldo would have made the list. But if there was a footballer who was able to achieve a level beyond that and attract hatred from football fans across every corner of the globe, including even those of his own club and country, well, there's no doubt that if anyone could have done it, it would have been Diego Costa. And sure, those guys I mentioned earlier definitely received a lot of hate, but they had even more love and support from fans. Diego Costa, on the other hand, well, he's the perfect definition of a football villain, and nobody knows it more than him. But that trademark behavior on the pitch that helped him get so far in his career would eventually get him back in the face. Not only figuratively, but literally. Let's talk more about that later though. Besides, what else could he have done? Since his childhood, it's really all he's known. In his words, I fought and insulted everyone. I couldn't control myself. In his younger years, whenever he lost the ball on the pitch, Costa just simply couldn't accept it. I mean, look no further than to his own older brother, Diego Costa, because after he fouled and dispossessed the younger Diego, his little brother grabbed a stone and threw it his way, leaving a childhood scar in the back of his head. But in the eyes of Diego Costa, there was just no other option. As he said, in the streets, you have to be the most cunning one. In that environment, I didn't control myself. I had no respect for the opposition, and I thought I had to kill them. Because Diego Costa didn't really play any academy football. He truly is a product of the streets. And of course, I'm not trying to justify his behavior, because although he would eventually find his way to the professional level, he had every opportunity to improve his behavior and simply refused, despite the fact that he would continue to get hated wherever he went, even when he would go all the way across the other side of the world to play in Spain. During his loan to Celta Vigo, he would continue to be a menace, being disrespectful, showboating, and getting into fights so often that he reportedly made his manager and former Ballon d'Or winner, Hristo Stoichkov, suddenly quit his position at Celta Vigo. Across his first 3 years in Spain, Costa would go loaned around to different clubs like the unwanted problem child he was, scoring a decent 24 goals, but stacking up a ridiculous 6 red cards from further fighting with opponents and being an overall menace to referees. He was so infamous for that attitude and behavior that no matter what club or locker room he was in, they only referred to him as that effing Brazilian. It wasn't until Costa finally settled down with Atletco Madrid and a manager who in his playing days was also incredibly disliked in Diego Simeone that a true home for the bad boy was made. I mean, it was the perfect situation for Costa. Simeone allowed him to play his unique style that didn't only involve being aggressive, but doing whatever he could to get under the opposition's skin. Even if a guy that looked as dangerous as him had to flop and dive to get a whistle from the referee, Diego Costa would do whatever was needed of him. But despite him at times diving, flopping, and overall looking soft, nobody forgot for a second just how crazy Diego Costa could really be. Sometimes there was no limit to how far Diego Costa would take his antics, even headbutting players, resulting in UEFA hammering him down with a 4-match ban. And in La Liga, the only player who not even Sergio Ramos could fully intimidate was Diego Costa, with the two consistently getting into it every time they saw each other, nearly turning the pitch into a mixed martial arts arena. But despite the anger issues, lack of discipline, and overall scummy antics that made Diego Costa so widely hated, Simeone refused to bench him and continued to let him do his thing. Because whether you hated him or not, Diego Costa produced results, providing an impressive 20 goals and 13 assists in 44 matches along with 15 yellow cards. And he even scored in the 2013 Copa del Rey final to beat Real Madrid and lift the trophy. And well, with basically the entire footballing world outside of Atletco Madrid and Brazil fans hating on the kind of player that Costa was, you might have thought there's no way things could get any worse. Except they did. So remember, Diego Costa is 100% Brazilian. He grew up to become that rough and crazy player that the world has come to know from his days playing in the streets of Brazil. In fact, he's already made a few appearances for Brazil's national team during a couple of friendly matches. But after winning his first trophy in Spain and finally becoming a striker who, despite his terrible reputation, was starting to get recognized for skill and production. Plus, with the 2014 World Cup in the horizon, held in Rio de Janeiro of all places, many Brazil football fans were eager for the chance to once more be crowned as football world champions. They had a prime Dani Alves, Thiago Silva, David Luiz, and of course their star boy Raymar to lead the country. And with the emergence of a strong, dominant striker like Diego Costa, it would only make their chances of winning even better. But on October 29, 2013, shortly after the beginning of the 2013-14 La Liga season, after having received Spanish citizenship earlier in the year, Diego Costa revealed that he would switch over to play for the Spanish national team. To the Brazilian people, Costa instantly became public enemy number one. Brazil's manager Scolari said he's turning his back on the dream of millions to represent our national team. It even got so bad that Brazil Football Federation genuinely tried requesting legal action to Brazil's Justice Ministry that Diego Costa be stripped of his Brazilian citizenship. All that just for deciding to play with Spain. Crazy. But even in Spain, Costa's reputation was just so bad that his decision wasn't getting him much love from Spanish fans either, as immediately following his announcement, he would face crowds like this all throughout the country. But of course, the internet and meme culture at the time was just as relentless. I remember the exact moment I heard about it and thought, there's no way he did that. And of course, besides the hate, Brazil would be joining in on the memes, like this car dealership ad that says, "Unlike Diego Costa, this car fills Brazilians with pride." And you have to remember that at the time, Spain was just coming off winning the 2008 Euro, the 2010 World Cup, the 2012 Euro, or without a doubt, the most dominant international dynasty in history. Adding a striker as in form as Costa was would have almost certainly guaranteed them another World Cup win in the eyes of many. His decision just further added trophy hunter and traitor to the long list of names he had already accumulated over the years. But perhaps that decision would cause some Brazilian black magic or just simply karma to get back at Costa, because he would have the best season of his career, having an insane 36 goals and 4 assists, a total of 40 goal contributions in 52 matches for Atletco Madrid. Simeone's bad boy Atletico, with Diego Costa leading the charge, would suddenly take the football world by storm, as they would finish 3 points above Real Madrid and Barcelona and take the La Liga title. And in the Champions League, they would obliterate Milan 5-1 in the round of 16, upset Barcelona 2-1 in the quarterfinal, and break Chelsea 3-1 in the semi-final. But karma would come around, making sure Diego Costa would pay for his betrayal and overall behavior by making sure he would never win a major final. Atletico were minutes away from winning a Champions League title until one of his most bitter rivals, Sergio Ramos, equalized for Madrid, resulting in Atletico quickly getting dismantled 4-1 shortly after. And of course, you'd expect a team like Spain, who just added a striker, to only make them more overpowered. But it turns out the easy trophy that Costa was looking for would never come. Spain looked like absolute ghosts of themselves, as the karma and endless boos thrown at Diego Costa from the Brazilian crowd broke the squad. And as expected, his hate from the Spanish media and fans would reach even further heights. And perhaps it might have even been too much for Diego Costa. His hype, which had been at an all-time high just a few months prior, quickly began to fade away. Which is why when Chelsea made a €32 million bet for the troublemaking striker, it came as a shock for many. The guy might have not known a single word of English, but one thing was for sure. He was going to continue that same behavior that got him so much hate in the first place. And as expected, as soon as he arrived in the Premier League, his antics started right where he left off. Costa would continue to be an unapologizing nuisance to every opposing team. And while he did help Chelsea win 2 Premier League titles with his goal scoring ever since that 2013-14 season, getting all the backlash and collecting bad karma, he'd never really come close to producing his same numbers again. and he'd still never go on to win a major international title. He'd win the League Cup in the 14-15 season and finish as runner-ups in the 16-17 FA Cup. He would go back to Atletico one last time, but it's kind of hard to justify the Europa League title against Marseille as a major trophy. The guy went from almost beating CR7 for the La Liga Forward of the Season award to never reaching more than 23 goals a season again. And for Spain as well, their once unbeatable dynasty took a literal nosedive since Diego Costa joined. Some people were really happy with his downfall, and others, well, were just glad to no longer see him in their league. But ironically, for the last few years, he's since returned and is now playing in no other than his home country of Brazil. The Brazilian people never really forgave him, and he's still up to his usual tactics that made him so infamous. But if there's one thing for sure about Diego Costa, he's gonna continue to do what he does and make no apologies. Whether we like it or not, it's what got him so far in his career. And he's gonna continue to stand as a football villain till the day that he retires.